She lost everything in the crash, but a human gave her new limbs and a new life. The salvage. The lightning split Kepler Station's artificial sky like a knife through fabric, illuminating the twisted wreckage of the diplomatic transport that had crashed into Sector 7's industrial district. Rain hammered against the hull fragments scattered across the loading platform, washing rivulets of coolant and hydraulic fluid into the storm drains. Finn Blackwater pulled his hood tighter against the downpour as he approached the crash site, his heavy boots splashing through puddles that reflected the emergency lights. The portable scanner in his weathered hand beeped steadily, detecting valuable salvage among the debris. At 35, Finn had spent half his life picking through the bones of dead starships, but this wreck was different. The sleek curves and bioorganic components marked it as Zalarian, one of their diplomatic vessels. "Nothing worth saving here, Blackwater," Commander Roth called out from behind the safety barrier. The station security chief's voice carried over the storm, tinged with his usual impatience. Medical team already cleared the site. No survivors. Finn paused, scanning the largest section of hull with practiced eyes. Something about the crash pattern bothered him. The ship had come down hard, but the cockpit section remained partially intact. His scanner indicated power cells still active in that area, unusual for a vessel declared completely dead. "Mind if I take a look anyway?" Finn shouted back, rain streaming down his face. "Zalarian tech brings good credits, even salvaged." Roth waved dismissively. 10 minutes, then we clear the area for debris removal." Finn approached the cockpit section, its crystalline viewport spiderwebbed with cracks. The bioluminescent panels that typically adorned Zalarian ships flickered weakly, casting an eerie blue glow through the rain. He pressed his palm against the hull, feeling for vibrations that might indicate life support systems still functioning. There, faint hum, barely perceptible through the metal. Using his plasma cutter, Finn began working on the emergency access panel. The Zalarian biolocks had failed in the crash, allowing him to bypass their normally impenetrable security. Steam hissed as the cutter's beam sliced through the reinforced materials. The panel fell away with a hollow clang, revealing the ship's interior. Emergency lighting cast everything in deep red, and the air that escaped carried the metallic scent of blood mixed with the ozone smell of damaged electronics. Finn squeezed through the opening, his shoulders barely fitting through the gap. The cockpit was a disaster. Control surfaces had buckled inward, and sparking cables hung like deadly vines from the ceiling. But there, still strapped into the pilot's seat, was a figure that made Finn's breath catch in his throat. She was Zalarian. That much was obvious from her crystalline blue skin and the delicate silver markings that traced patterns across her, features like living circuitry. Her hair was white as starlight, now matted with the luminescent blue fluid that served as Zalarian blood. But what stopped Finn cold was the extent of her injuries. Both arms were gone, severed cleanly at the shoulders by twisted metal during the impact. Her legs had suffered the same fate, leaving only stumps at her hips. By any reasonable measure, she should have been dead minutes after the crash, yet her chest rose and fell with shallow, labored breaths, and her closed eyelids flickered with the rapid movement of dreams or nightmares. "Impossible," Finn whispered, checking his bioscanner. The readings were weak, but definitely indicated life. Zalarian physiology was more resilient than human, but this level of trauma should have been fatal. He was reaching for his comm unit to call for medical assistance when her eyes opened. They were the color of deep ocean water, flecked with silver that seemed to move like living things. Despite her condition, her gaze was clear and aware as it focused on his face. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm outside. The universal translator in Finn's earpiece rendered her words in accented standard. "Don't let them find me like this." Finn knelt beside her chair, careful not to disturb any of the medical tubes and wires that seemed to be keeping her alive. "What's your name?" "Zara. Zara Voss." Each word seemed to cost her tremendous effort. "Diplomatic. Courier. The storm. Instruments failed. Easy," Finn said gently. "Save your strength." I'm going to get you medical attention. Her eyes widened with something approaching panic. No, you don't understand. My people, they won't let me live like this. Incomplete. It's mercy to them. Finn had heard about Zalarian customs regarding physical disability, though he'd never encountered it directly. In their culture, individuals who couldn't contribute fully to society were encouraged to join the eternal current, a euphemistic way of describing ritual suicide. That's not going to happen, he said firmly. Not on my watch. He activated his comm unit, but instead of calling Station Medical, he contacted his own workshop. This is Blackwater. I need my emergency medical kit and the biosuspension unit. Sector 7 coordinates transmitting now. Finn. Zara's voice was growing weaker. Why? You don't know me. He looked into those remarkable eyes, seeing not just pain but intelligence, determination, and something else. Hope, perhaps, though she was trying to hide it. Because everyone deserves a chance to choose their own fate, he said simply. Working quickly, Finn stabilized her as best he could with his field medical supplies. The biosuspension unit would keep her alive during transport, but her injuries were far beyond anything the station's medical facilities could handle. What she needed was reconstruction on a level that most medical professionals would consider impossible. Fortunately, Finn wasn't most professionals. As he carefully extracted Zara from the wreckage, Commander Roth appeared at the access opening. Blackwater, what are you doing in there? Found a survivor, Finn called back, cradling Zara's diminished form against his chest. She was surprisingly light without her limbs, and he could feel the rapid flutter of her heartbeat through her thin pilot suit. Dr. Yenna already pronounced her dead, Roth protested as Finn emerged from the wreckage. Zalarian medical examiner, she knows her own species. Well, she was wrong. Finn activated the biosuspension field around Zara, watching as the blue energy envelope stabilized her vital signs. I'm taking her to my workshop. You can't just... Roth began, but Finn was already moving toward his transport vehicle, a battered hover truck that had seen better decades. Check the salvage laws, Commander, Finn called over his shoulder. Anything I pull from a wreck becomes my responsibility. That includes survivors. Dr. Yenna appeared beside Roth, her own crystalline, blue skin pale with shock. She cannot survive those injuries. You're prolonging her suffering unnecessarily. Finn paused at his truck, looking back at the Zalarian doctor. Maybe, but that's going to be her choice to make, not yours. As he secured Zara in the transport's medical bay, she managed to speak one more time, her words barely whisper soft. My arms, my legs, and what will I be now? Finn met her gaze steadily as he initiated the vehicle's medical systems. You'll be whatever you choose to become. I'm going to build you new limbs, better ones. But the person using them, that's up to you. Her eyes closed as the suspension field sedative effects took hold, but he caught the ghost of a smile on her lips. The drive to his workshop took 20 minutes through Kepler Station's winding corridors and maintenance tunnels. Finn's facility was located in the old mining section, where rent was cheap and neighbors minded their own business. The converted cargo bay served as both his living space and laboratory, filled with half-completed projects and salvaged technology from a dozen different species. As he transferred Zara to his medical table, Finn's mind was already racing through the challenges ahead. Zalarian physiology was complex. Their nervous systems were partially crystalline, conducting signals through bioelectric pathways that human medicine barely understood. Creating prosthetics that could interface with those systems would require innovation on a level he'd never attempted. But as he looked down at Zara's peaceful face framed by her silver-white hair, Finn felt something he hadn't experienced in years, purpose that went beyond mere survival or profit. He activated his workstation's holographic displays and began pulling up everything he could find on Zalarian anatomy, cybernetic integration, and advanced prosthetics. The next few weeks would test every skill he'd acquired in 20 years of engineering and salvage work. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but in the warm glow of his workshop, Finn Blackwater began planning the most ambitious project of his career, rebuilding a broken woman into something new and extraordinary. Reconstruction. 3 weeks after the crash, Zara Voss awakened to the sound of precision machinery and the scent of ozone. Her consciousness emerged slowly, like surfacing from deep water, and for a moment she couldn't remember where she was, or why her body felt so strange. Then the memories crashed back, the storm, the failing instruments, the impact that had torn her world apart. She tried to move, expecting the familiar sensation of paralysis that had haunted her dreams, but instead felt something unexpected, weight and balance where her limbs should be. "Easy there," came a familiar voice. Finn Blackwater appeared in her field of vision, his face drawn with exhaustion but his dark eyes bright with something that looked like triumph. "Your neural pathways are still adapting. Don't try to move too quickly." Zara looked down at herself and gasped. Where her right arm had been severed, she now saw a sleek prosthetic limb that gleamed like polished obsidian. The surface was marked, with silver tracery that pulsed with soft blue light, a pattern that somehow complemented the natural luminescence of her Zalarian skin. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, far beyond anything she'd seen even in the most advanced medical facilities on her homeworld. "How long?" she whispered, her voice rough from disuse. 22 days, Finn replied, settling into a chair beside her workbench. He looked like he'd aged years in those weeks. His brown hair was longer and unkempt, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "I had to grow new nerve interfaces, calibrate the bioelectric responses to match your crystalline neural structure. It was complicated." Zara attempted to flex her new fingers. The response was immediate and natural, as if the prosthetic had always been part of her. She could feel texture, temperature, even the slight air currents in the workshop. "This is impossible," she breathed. "The neural integration alone should have taken months, and the materials— let's just say I called in some favors." Finn's smile was tired but genuine. "And maybe borrowed some restricted research data from a few military contractors. Try the left one now." Her left arm was even more remarkable than the right. The basic structure was similar, but Finn had incorporated additional functionality. She could see micro-tools retracted into the fingertips, and the forearm bore what looked like a small display screen currently showing her vital signs. "Utility arm," Finn explained, noticing her examination. "Plasma cutter, electronic interface, medical scanner. Figured you might need versatility more than just cosmetics." The workshop door chimed and a new voice called out, "Finn, you in there? I brought the neural synchronization equipment you requested." A man entered carrying a case of sophisticated electronics. He was younger than Finn, with short-cropped red hair and the pale complexion of someone who spent most of his time in artificial environments. His eyes widened when he saw Zara sitting upright. "Jace Morrow," Finn said by way of introduction. "Old colleague from my military contracting days. Jace, meet Zara Voss." Jace set down his equipment and approached cautiously. The neural integration worked? Her brain patterns are actually interfacing with the prosthetics? "Better than I hoped," Finn replied with obvious pride. "Her Zalarian neural structure is more adaptable than human. The crystalline pathways actually enhanced the connection. Stability. This is unprecedented," Jace said, his voice filled with scientific excitement. "The applications for this technology could revolutionize cybernetic medicine across dozens of species." Zara tried to sit up straighter, and to her amazement, her new arms provided perfect support and balance. "What about my legs?" Finn's expression grew more serious. "That's where things get complicated. Your hip joints were severely damaged in the crash. I had to rebuild significant portions of your pelvic structure before I could attach the prosthetics. The surgery was extensive." He activated a holographic display showing medical scans of her lower body. The images revealed extensive cybernetic reconstruction, titanium struts and biomechanical joints that extended deep into her torso. "I won't lie to you," Finn continued. "This level of reconstruction has never been attempted before. We're in uncharted territory here." "Show me," Zara said quietly. Finn hesitated, then helped her move to a sitting position at the edge of the workbench. Looking down, Zara saw that her legs were works of art as much as engineering marvels. Like her arms, they were crafted from black metal with silver and blue accents, but the proportions were somehow more elegant than her original limbs had been. The feet were particularly striking, articulated like natural toes but with additional stability elements that suggested enhanced balance and grip. "Can I stand?" she asked. "We'll find out together," Finn said, offering his arm for support. The first attempt was awkward. Zara's brain kept sending signals for muscles that no longer existed, while the prosthetics responded to neural commands she wasn't yet used to giving. But slowly, with Finn and Jace supporting her, she managed to rise to her feet. The sensation was extraordinary. The prosthetic legs felt powerful beneath her, more stable than her original limbs had ever been. She could sense the floor through the feet, feel the distribution of her weight with mechanical precision. "How do they feel?" Jace asked, monitoring readings on his scanner. "Strong," Zara replied, taking a tentative step forward. "Different, but strong." She was attempting her third step when the workshop door burst open. Commander Roth entered, followed by a tall, elegant figure that made Zara's blood freeze in her veins. Elder Keth was ancient, even by Zalarian standards, his crystalline skin having taken on the deep blue-black coloration of extreme age. The silver markings on his face had spread into complex patterns that spoke of centuries of accumulated wisdom and authority. He wore the flowing robes of a high diplomatic caste, and his presence filled the small workshop with an aura of unmistakable power. "Zara Voss," Elder Keth said, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that marked formal Zalarian speech. "You have caused considerable concern." Zara immediately felt the ingrained response of her upbringing, the need to show proper deference to her elders and superiors. But standing on her new legs, with Finn's supportive presence beside her, she found herself meeting the elder's gaze. Directly, "Elder Keth, I did not expect to see you here. Your transport was 3 days overdue. When we learned of the crash, we came immediately to retrieve your remains and conduct the proper ceremonies." His ancient eyes took in her reconstructed form with obvious distaste. "Instead, we find this aberration." "Hey now." Finn stepped forward, his voice carrying a warning edge. "I don't know what your customs are, but where I come from, we don't insult people who've just survived impossible odds." Elder Keth's attention shifted to Finn with the slow, predatory focus of a hunting bird. "You are the human who has done this thing, who has violated the natural order and prolonged suffering that should have ended with dignity." "I gave her a choice," Finn replied firmly. "Something your people apparently weren't willing to do." "Our ways have served us for millennia," Elder Keth said coldly. "We do not allow the broken to burden the whole, nor do we permit the corruption of natural form with crude mechanical substitutes." Zara felt anger building in her chest, an emotion she'd rarely experienced so strongly. "Crude?" she said, her voice gaining strength. "Elder, these prosthetics are more advanced than anything our own medical science has produced. I'm not broken anymore." "You are no longer Zalarian," Elder Keth replied with finality. "You are something other, part machine, part organic, wholly unnatural. You cannot return to our world in this state." The words hit Zara like physical blows. She had known this moment would come, had feared it even as she hoped otherwise. To be declared un-Zalarian was tantamount to being erased from existence, cut off from family, culture, history, everything that had defined her identity. "Then, I won't return," she said quietly, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. Both Elder Keth and Finn stared at her. "Zara," Finn said gently, "you don't have to make that decision now. There might be other options." "No," she interrupted, taking another step forward on her new legs. The movement felt more natural now, as if her body was rapidly learning to accept its new configuration. "Elder Keth is right about one thing. I'm not the same person who crashed here 3 weeks ago. That Zara died in the wreckage. But this Zara, the one standing here now, she's something new." She looked directly at Elder Keith, no longer feeling the automatic deference of her upbringing. I choose to be what I am now. I choose to be grateful to the human who saved my life when my own people would have let me die. And I choose to stay here, with him, and discover what this new existence can become. Elder Keth's expression hardened. Then you are no longer our responsibility. Your family will be informed that Zaravos died in the crash as was originally believed. So be it, Zara replied. The elder turned and swept from the workshop without another word, his robes billowing dramatically. Commander Roth lingered for a moment, looking uncomfortable. For what it's worth, he said quietly to Finn, what you did here, it was something special. Don't let the bureaucrats tell you otherwise. After they left, silence settled over the workshop. Jace busied himself with his equipment, clearly trying to give Zara and Finn privacy for what was obviously a significant moment. Are you sure about this? Finn asked gently. Giving up everything you've ever known, your entire culture. Zara took another step, then another, walking slowly around the workshop with increasing confidence. Her new body felt powerful, capable, alive in ways she'd never experienced before. My culture was willing to let me die rather than live differently, she said. You were willing to spend weeks of your life rebuilding me, asking nothing in return, except the chance to let me choose my own future. She stopped in front of him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Besides, she continued, reaching out with her new hand to touch his face, marveling at the sensation of his warm skin against her synthetic fingertips. I think I'd like to learn more about human customs, starting with this concept of second chances. Finn's smile was like sunrise after a long night. I think I can teach you a few things about that. Outside the workshop, Kepler Station continued its eternal orbit, home to countless species learning to coexist among the stars. And in one small converted cargo bay, a human engineer and a reconstructed Zalarian diplomat began writing the first chapter of a story that neither of their peoples had ever imagined possible.